Today is the last day that we're going to be spending on our Junior Great Books article that was about impulse buying. You've read it a couple times this week. We've done some more work with it. Today we're going to do the last page in the article or in your book on the article, and that is page 43. So please turn to page 43 now. Okay. Now, before we go on and do this, I want to ask you a few questions. So if we were all together in class, we would just kind of be discussing these together. You don't need to write down answers to these questions. You just need to think about them. Okay. So, which do you think makes a display work better? Putting it at eye level or setting it up in an attractive way? And do you remember what attractive means? So if we look back here in our book, attractive was one of our bolded words, and it meant beautiful and interesting. So do you think that if it displays at eye level, that works the best, or if the display is really beautiful and interesting, kind of like some of the displays you might see maybe at Christmas time or at different holidays? So what do you think on that? All right, so just think about it. Like I said, you don't need to write these down. We're just thinking about them. The next question is, would a sign that says big sale or a sign that says today only be more likely to get you to buy something? So what do you think? If a sign says big sale or a sign that says today only, meaning that today might be the only day it's on sale, which would get you to buy something? Which would get you to buy something? All right. So just kind of have a thought in your head. And then our last question says, would you be more likely to buy something you saw at the front of a store or at the checkout counter? So when they say front of the store, I think they mean like right when you walk in, right when you go in the door, because you usually have to walk a little ways to get to the checkout counter. So what do you think? Are you more likely to buy something at the front of the store or at the checkout counter? And when I was thinking about that, I thought, I don't know. That's a hard one because I guess it would depend on if I felt like it was a good price or not for me. So if I saw something that looked like an amazing price at the front of the store, I might get it. Or if I saw something at the checkout counter, I might get it. But it also might depend on if I was feeling hungry or thirsty, and if they have water there or if they have some crackers there or something. I'm usually pretty good at not buying any sweets at the checkout counter, but sometimes if I see some almonds or some crackers and I haven't had dinner yet, then those things can get me. So I don't know. So just think about those things. All right. Let's move on. So this is further investigation. So today we're going to look at what we've been talking about a little bit further, a little bit deeper. It says, look back at the places you marked with questions and at the class list of questions. Now, if you didn't mark anywhere with questions, that's okay. You can go back and look at the text now and see if you have any questions or anything you want to learn more about, okay? It says think about questions that came up in your discussion too. So when we talked about the story on Monday. Were there any questions that came up? I know that I remember Libby had a really great question. Which do you still want to know more about? So basically, this is saying, what do you want to learn more about? Write your questions below. Think about where you might look to find answers to them. For example, you might look for an answer online, read a book about the subject, or ask someone who knows a lot about the subject. So I want you to take just a second and hit pause and see if you have any more questions or something you want to learn more about, and you can write those down. So hit pause for just a second. Okay. Well, I had some questions that I still wanted answered. So if you can't come up with your own questions, you can learn about mine with me. So one of my first questions was, do stores only use 3 methods? Okay. Do stores only use 3 methods to get people to impulse buy? Do stores only use 3 methods to get people to impulse buy? And I'm going to look for this answer on the internet. All right. So I want to see if there are more methods out there that stores are using to get people to impulse buy. Another question I had were, well, it had to do with the cereal boxes. So it was just something I wanted to learn more about. So, okay. So how can I learn more about cereal selling and how people are selling cereal? I thought that was pretty interesting how they talked about that in the article. So again, I'm going to look on the internet for that. My very last question was, how can I make sure not to impulse buy? So how can I make sure I don't get sucked in by those displays and the layout of the store and the fancy signs? So how can I make sure not to impulse buy? So I'm going to look on the internet as well, because I think that's our best source, especially since the library is closed. I think that finding books and articles, that we can find those on the internet as well. All right. So finish up your questions. Maybe your questions are different than mine. That's okay. Or you can use my questions. So go ahead and finish up page 43. Our clue word's cereal. Clue word is cereal.